young people here. Hey, buddy, what's up?
How's it going?
It's going better than it should. Really,
Uh-huh.
honestly, it is. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Somebody just asked me when I was going to retire. And I don't know, man. I was going to ask you kind of the same question. Being gentlemen of a certain age, I think I'm a little bit older than you. I can't remember.
Yeah. So I'm 53, so I don't know where that puts us. How old are you?
58.
58. Okay. So yeah, you're a little bit older. So, there's two ways to look at retirement. One is financially. So,
Mm-hmm.
I checked that box 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Two is vocationally. So for me, retirement just isn't an option. I'm always going to do deals. What I do, I do equity capital. I buy companies, build them up and sell them. I develop real
Mm-hmm.
estate. I invest in, different types of properties. And, I coach and mentor people all over the world. And so to me, I'll never stop. I just can't, I've lived on the coast my whole life. I've lived in the mountains, and I love to travel and enjoy
Mm-hmm.
life and take time in chunks. But I don't think I could ever retire, just play golf all day or, just do nothing.
Yeah, no, there's no such thing as that. And I think most people on here, when they ask that question, I think it's more of a question of when are you going to stop working 12 hours a day? But I mean, my days go so quick and I'm having so much fun and there's so much energy in our office. I don't know, we're here till late and I still spend a ton of time at home, but we've actually got a fair amount of people on already. Hi guys. I'm going to introduce you because that's usually the way I start.
Awesome.
Greg Dickerson, serial entrepreneur, developer, coach, and mentor. He was referred to me by somebody that I know. I don't think it was Carlos. And we got to talking last week, I think it was, or the week before probably. And really interesting guy. Most of us are just trying to get ahead and get a few units under our belt, and that's as far as we go. But some of you out there are talking about, exploding and getting huge. And that's kind of where Greg comes in. Now, he's going to probably correct me on this, but his forte is scaling and probably digging deep to find out what you really want. And of course, I'm going to let him explain that. I'll give you 60 seconds to give your 60-second thing, and then I've got a bunch of questions I want to ask you. And then for the last half hour, hopefully you'll stick around and we'll answer some questions. Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
So I'm on the East Coast. It's 8 o'clock where I'm at, and I spent a good little bit of my life in California. I've lived in San Francisco, San Diego, and Huntington Beach. I was in the Navy right out of high school, and
Right.
did some time in California. And then when I was a little kid, preschool, elementary school, early elementary, my dad was stationed there. He was in the Navy.
Okay.
So love California. Haven't been there in 30 years probably, but beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah. So, and since you're in Florida now?
Virginia. So I'm just outside of DC.
God dang it. I wasn't even close. Well, I guess that's not that far.
Yeah, it's not too far.
Yeah. What's up, Todd? So tell us a little bit about what you do now. And, I've got a couple of notes here. You're working with clients that have $2 billion in assets under management, and you've done a couple $100 million in deals, and take it from there.
Yeah. So I started in my full-time entrepreneurial career in 1997. I had some side jobs and corporate jobs, after the military up to 1997. But that's when I stepped out, started a little remodeling handyman company, and it was just me, my truck and tools. I had no money, no backing. I didn't go to college, no formal education. Didn't know what I was doing. Didn't know how to build a house. I knew I was handy, and I could do a little trim, build some decks, fences, stuff like that, replace the screen door, whatever you needed done.
Right.
First little job I did was a $500 little deck project for a restaurant, and built that into a $30 million company in 7 years, started 12 other companies along the way with it, and reinvested all the profits into real estate assets. So I ended up doing about $250 million worth of real estate deals using my own money, nobody else, no backers, no investors, just my own money. I've done 400 or 500 million with investor capital, bought a number of companies, built them up, sold them off, probably 200-300 million in equity capital deals. So what I do is I teach people and I help people do what I did, build businesses that generate cash flow to invest in other assets. I teach people how to be entrepreneurs. For those that want to grow and scale and get big, I take people as far as they want to go. I've got people that started with me and had 100 million in assets under management and they're over $1 billion now. I've got people that never flipped a house before, and I'm coaching and mentoring them. So different people doing different things, raising capital, starting companies, building businesses, getting into commercial development, just all kinds of different things. And what's really cool is I'm doing this with people all over the world. I have people in Europe, Australia. It's really, really interesting and fascinating. But what I am, first and foremost, I'm a people builder. So everything that I've done in my career, I've done through other people. I find great people and I coach them to success. I turn them into leaders, motivators, and delegators. So that's what I am. I'm a leader.
I'm gonna before I forget, because your story's probably not even done yet, and I'll let you finish that. But I want to go back because most of the folks on here are either just getting started or have just started, and let's go back to you're a handyman, and you did that first deck. When did you decide that property was the thing to buy? I mean, we all get hit by the thunderbolt somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. You see somebody else doing something. What was it for you?
Yeah, so I'd owned 2 houses prior to this, but I never thought about real estate as an investment or as a business. Mm-hmm. Didn't even know you could do it. Had no clue. And then I started working for some other investors and developers that were very successful up in the Northern Virginia region, coming down and they were buying beach houses and remodeling them and flipping them, and they were hiring me to do the work. So I started learning from them and started doing projects for them. And then I had a real estate agent that was a good friend of mine. He came to me and he said, "Hey, Greg, he knew I was successful and I was doing well. He said, "Hey, there's a lot over here that we can flip." He said, "We can buy it for 100 grand. My dad's got a client that'll pay 130 for it or 140, whatever it was." He said, "You put up all the money, I'll do everything else, and we'll split the profit." And I was like, "Is that legal?" He's like, "Sure." I said, "Okay." So I, wired the 100 grand. We bought the lot. A week later or 30 days later, it was sold. He and I split like 15,000 a piece, and the light bulb went off. Right, and I was like, "Wow." So, so I was doing work for these other guys, flipping houses. So I started doing that: buy a house, renovate it, sell it. And these were, resort rental beach houses. And then I learned how to build spec houses. I had another developer I was working for that was a spec house developer. So I did some deals with him as a partner. I got burned. Cool. He took total advantage of me, but I learned a great lesson, made some money. He walked away with $500,000.
Greg, if anybody that hasn't been burned in this business will get burned. Yeah. I mean, you allow yourself to do it, but when you start, you trust everybody because they know more than you, right? It's, but hopefully you and I didn't have the internet, right?
Yeah, no.
We didn't have this wealth of knowledge that's staring us in the face every day. So, for those of you out there that are hearing that, that happened a lot more then than it does now, but it still happens a lot. So
yeah, and and I learned by doing making mistakes. Learned, like you said, we didn't have the internet, and I educated myself. I didn't go to college, but the number one thing I did was I poured into myself constantly. So I've never had any music. Okay. So back in the old days, it was the, Sony Walkman cassette player. I had nothing but books on tape. Anytime I was out exercising, doing something, I'm listening to business, personal, professional development. Yep. Then it was the CD player. And then it was the 80 gig iPod. And that's in my car. I was going to show it to you, but I still have my 80 gig iPod full of just audiobooks. So I poured that stuff into myself. I put myself in a position to do deals with other people that were very sophisticated. Sometimes that cost me, but the lessons I learned were invaluable. So that's really how it started. It started with just doing, some work for some guys that were flipping houses, then building spec houses.
Let me ask you a question about that. So coming out of the recession, I was repoing houses for the bank, and I found Tony Robbins, like, it's still sitting on the shelf over there. Because I have to look at it every once in a while because it's, that's one of the things that kind of got me out of the shithole that I was in.
Which one? Awaken the Giant Within?
What the hell is it called? It's called Get the Edge. It's an old one. And but I found it. It was free. I couldn't have afforded to pay for it, but I could listen to it in the car. And it was one of those things. It was just one of those aha moments. Where I listen to it now, I'll be honest with you. If I listen to it now, it's like, one of those kind of cringy, but not. But back then, I needed it so bad. Do you think that? I mean, we're both kind of acknowledging that that's okay. But were you in a place where you needed that, or in a place where you wanted it, or what was the situation? Because a lot of people that are on here right now are, you know, maybe they're down in the dumps, they've dug a hole, whatever, COVID's kicked their ass. What was it about that? Was it that you needed it at the time, or was it something that it was like just boosted you a little bit? Do you understand what I'm asking? Because I like to ask this question. I just can't word it correctly.
Well, you know, Tony Robbins' works were born out of a necessity. He was at the lowest point in his life when he wrote his book and started out. And my first interaction with Tony was Awaken the Giant Within. That was the first book I read. I've read all his stuff, and I still do, and I still listen to him, and I still follow. So for me, it's like working out, right? So initially, I needed the information because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know you could think big. I didn't know you could do whatever you wanted. I didn't know that you could build businesses that generate cash flow to invest in other assets. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's where I got that concept.
There's another
That's
one.
when the light bulb went off. And then The Power of Positive Thinking was book number 2. Think and Grow Rich was book number 3. Those first 3 books. And then, you know, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's the 4 cornerstone books. And then I started getting into all the other Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, you know, all that. So what happens is, for me, it's like working out. So it's once you embrace it and you realize what's really cool is when you pour into yourself like that, you realize how much you don't know. And the more you learn, the more you realize how much more there is to know. And you can never, ever end. You can never, you know, reach an ending point. You can always go deeper. You can always learn more. There's always something new to learn. So for me, it was a hunger. And it does, you know, I'm always motivated. I'm never somebody who was, you know, down or moping or anything. You take your licks, right? When I got taken advantage of, well, it was just a lesson, whatever. And, you know, but for me, it was just a hunger, and it was a constant building, improving, insatiable reading, listening constantly. And even now, I don't listen to music.
But you were, but you were taking action at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because that's something that I'm really strong on. You know, I've got guys that, you know, have read so many great books and listened to so many great tapes and see tapes. Geez. Okay, forget the tape part. Erase that. What do we listen
we're
to?
old school.
Podcasts. We listen to podcasts now. Anyway.
But you got to do something with it, right? Because you can become an information junkie. You can get
all
all pumped up, and you can go to Unlimited Power and spend a weekend with Tony Robbins, and you go home and then nothing happens.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's the scary part, because you get so pumped up, and then when you realize that maybe you're not ready to be that pumped up, it's almost the opposite. I see kind of the opposite in people. It's almost depressing. That's why whenever we work with anybody, we make them work. You know,
well, and you probably get it. I get it all the time. People have trouble getting started because there's so much information out there. When you and I started, guy came to me and said, hey, there's a lot we can buy and I can flip it. Well, I didn't say, well, what are the different lots? Well, should we do this? Should we lease options to do? It was just, let's buy it and flip it. So nowadays you have all these different strategies, all these different things that you can do. So what you have to do, for anybody listening, you know, if you're just trying to get started, just do something. Start with something. All you got to do is get started. Then you can always evolve, grow, and scale. So, you know, I spoke at, I went to the opening of a incubator school at one of the top business schools in the country here, Darden Business School at UVA, and they had opened this incubator lab, which is supposed to incubate startups, right, new companies. And I'm over there and I'm speaking and I'm talking to people, and the instructors come up and they're like, well, how did you start 12 different companies? I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, how did you start 12 businesses? How do you do that? And I'm like, well, isn't that what you teach here? And they're like, no, we incubate companies that are already there and help them grow and scale. And I'm like, well, number one, you start. You know, that's number one. You get an idea, you put it down on paper, create a little executive business plan, and you take action and you start. You know, if you want a lawn care company, you go out and you knock on somebody's door and say, hey, I got a lawnmower, your grass is long. Would you like me to cut it for $100? You know, I'll be back every week. So, I mean, you just do it at the simplest level. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't think about where's this thing going to go. You just say, you know what, I need to go generate business today, whatever that business is.
And, you know, Sauce, that my right hand and left hand half the time, you know, he's got he stole it, but imperfect action. You know, that's my favorite thing, because most people are trying to perfect what they do before they even start. And you know what? You're going to stumble. You're going to get screwed. You're going to screw up whether you study or not. I'm sorry. It's just going to happen. So you may as well get started and get that shit out of the way and move on, right? Imperfect action is such an amazing term. So.
And the other thing is I've always, before I started my company, I always wanted my own business. I always knew that's what I was going to do. And I didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for anybody listening, I mean, I've worked in restaurants and made $10 an hour as an adult, and I
Yeah.
was taking some classes at a community college after the military. I'd worked construction. I mean, I was out, working construction. I was doing metal building erection, walking steel, making
Mm-hmm.
10, $12 an hour. I mean,
Yep.
all this before I started my business. So number one, I put the time in. I learned some trades. I developed
Perfect.
skills with my hands that had
Yes.
value in the marketplace. Number two, I developed my mind. And that's what, you're talking about, a necessity, a need versus want. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it was, I had to have the right mindset because I just didn't know what I didn't know. And the more I
Mm-hmm.
started learning, the more I realized, wow, for anybody who wants to do anything, all you got to do is read or listen. It's all
Mm-hmm.
out there. The information's there. And then you
Oh,
put it into
totally,
action.
totally agree. And the crazy thing is, you don't know what you're capable of until a lot of times someone says you're capable of more. I mean, there's some people that have that inner drive, that inner fire, and I didn't have it. But and I don't
The
even
other
know
thing,
I
the
don't
other
know.
thing,
I don't
go
know
ahead.
what set me off at one time that made me go, Mark, you need to go out and just blow up, grow. You need a team. You need this. You need that. And of course, we just get more profitable every year. So, and
Yeah.
I don't remember what that turning point was for me, but when was that for you? As far as when, I mean, you're doing construction, taking in all this knowledge. When did it just like a thunderbolt hit you? And it's like, damn, I can do so much with what I know. I can do so
Yeah.
much. When did that hit you?
Well, so I already knew it, because again, so I was a natural born entrepreneur. So from the
Okay.
entrepreneurial standpoint, I was the little kid that would knock on your door, cut your grass. I'm like, hey, my name's Greg. I live down the street. I'm talking fifth, sixth, seventh grade.
Yeah.
And I was in martial arts and I wanted to buy, my uniform and my belts and do the testing for the next belt level. And my dad wouldn't give me money. He said, hey, you
Mhm.
want the next belt, go make some money and pay for it. And if you use my equipment, you're going to pay for that too. So he would take a percentage of my earnings to cover the cost of the equipment, the fuel, and all that.
Mhm.
So I'd go knock
Yeah.
on your door. Hey, Mark, this is Greg. I live down the street. I need to make some money. What do you need done? I'll wash your car. I'll vacuum your house. I'll rake your yard. I'll cut your
Love it.
grass. I'll walk your dog. What do you need? And I wouldn't leave till you hired me to do something, and that's just how it was.
Yeah.
So fast forward to when I was in the Navy. So I did retail in the Navy. So I did some accounting classes, business classes that they teach you in the Navy. And so I knew all about, chain of command, orders, proficient military, systems, standard operating procedures, all that. So I learned all about that in the military. Discipline. You just do what you got to do. You don't question. You just get up and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
There is no other alternative. Failure is not an option. You just do. So that was instilled in me in a young age and through the military. And then when I got out, I had my own construction company, usually on the side, and I worked in restaurants. So I got really great training in restaurants and I was a manager. So I worked my way up, became a manager, and then I was managing multiple units. So I learned through that, number one, how to lead, delegate, motivate. That company was where my mind was open to books, because when they hire you, they make you read these management books called The 1 Minute Manager. And then they required us to read Managing by Harold Janine and High Output Management by Andrew Grove. Those were the most incredible books I ever read in my life, because they teach you how to lead, delegate, motivate, manage people, how to get results from others. So those books are what really woke me up in the military in terms of doing through others, right? And using others as leverage to build the empire, not in a manipulative way, but in a sincere way that's,
Yeah, of
it's in
course.
everybody's best interest. Not everybody's
Yeah.
meant to be the leader. Not everybody can be in command, but I've always been a leader. I've always, had that bent. So when I learned how to develop leadership skills, and when I understood what leadership really is, it's the bottom up, not the top down. The leader's not up here barking down. The leader's down here serving up, serving others, right?
I like
Leaders
that.
inspire results out of others just by being there. So when you're with me, you're inspired to produce because you know it's good for you, not because you want to do it for me. So that's what great leaders do, and so it was early on that I realized how I was wired, what I need to do. I know my weaknesses, and what I did was don't work on your weaknesses, and you've heard build on your weaknesses and develop your strengths. Forget your weaknesses. Focus on your strengths and hire out your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Partner
I
your weaknesses.
totally agree.
Forget about them.
If I worked on my
So
weaknesses,
I know what my weaknesses
I'd never
are,
get
and I know
anywhere.
what my weaknesses were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go and I would partner with people that would fill in the gaps, that knew what I didn't know, could do what I didn't know how to do. And I said, I'm
Right.
not formally educated, but guess who my top employees were? They were all MBAs. My chief financial
Oh, yeah.
officer, president of my companies. I hired highly educated, skilled, experienced people that were experts doing what I wanted to do. And I brought them on board and I said, here's where we're going. I brought you in to take me there. Let's go. You tell me what you need. I'm right here with you.
So when when we were talking, you were talking about scaling your real estate business, or my real estate business, actually. So what does that look like when someone like me, I've got, maybe $10 million in assets. Nothing, to some people, that's going to sound like an enormous amount. To most people, it's going to sound like, people that have assets, it's not that much, really. So when you talk about scaling, what does that look like if you're working? Let's take it down a notch. Someone owns 2 or 3 houses in the Midwest, and they want to scale up, and they want to talk to you about that. Now, I know that's probably not where someone that you would probably advise, but if you were to advise someone like that, what would you tell them to do? What's the first step that they should take to scale up to get more than, well, not more than where they're at, obviously. It's not going to take much to do that, but to get up there to the level where they've got a comfortable income.
So number one, figure out what it is you want. So that's the hardest thing for people to do. You got to figure out what it is that you want. You need a target. You need to know what it is you want to do. So if you have 4 houses and you want, 20, then you need to put that down and reverse engineer that plan. How did you get the 4? Let's multiply that to get to the 20. But reverse engineer it. Say, I want 20 houses by the end of the year. I've got 4 now. Here's how I need to do it. This is the money that's required. These are the deals that I need to have. This is the cash flow I'm looking for. And then you go out and you start making offers. So, or let's say you want to say, okay, I want to get the 4 green houses and flip it into a hotel. So you go get the 4 green houses and you either refinance them, sell them, or you find somebody and trade, and you work your way into that red hotel. We're talking about monopoly, or apartment buildings, or commercial. So it all starts with, number one, you got to know what it is you want to do. And a lot of people say, I just want to get bigger. Well, we got to be a little bit more specific. What are you comfortable with? Do you like residential? Do you like commercial? You want to get into development? So whatever it is, we put a plan in place, reverse engineer it to get there, and start small. And then you just start growing and scaling from there. And you put systems in place where it almost does it on its own.
Okay. Now, so if someone comes to you and they haven't done anything yet, they've got big dreams, and obviously I know what I would say, but they say they want to start off with a 100-unit apartment complex. And what would you say to them? And I'm not talking, you don't know their wherewithal or anything, but I know what I'd say to somebody if they told me that. What would you say?
So I tell them, number one, first thing is you got to know what you're doing. So you have to educate yourself.
Yes.
So that's the first step. So, you need to know, number one, the market, the asset, the type of asset, the rents, the metrics of the asset. What are the costs to operate it in your regions that you're in? What areas do you want to be in? If you want to be narrowly focused on your asset type, then you have to be broad in your geography. If you broaden your asset type, you can be more narrow in your geography.
What does that mean, asset type? Like,
okay,
if you
just want to do nothing but 100 unit. Yeah, so if you just want to do 100 to 200 unit multifamily properties and that's it, then you're going to have to broaden your geography because there's only so many of them in your area. So to get more, you've got to broaden you got to go outside of your city and outside of your area. I always tell everybody, start with the area you're most familiar with whatever you're doing, but to scale that, or if you want to buy shopping centers, there's only so many shopping centers in your area, so you're going to have to go out. Now, if you're like me, I was narrow in my geography. I had a very narrow region that I operated in. So I did office, retail, residential. I did land development. I did multifamily. I did all of the types of real estate assets because I worked in a region where I could take advantage of whatever opportunities came along versus saying, I'm just doing this one thing.
So when you talk about buying properties, are you talking about, and I'm assuming it's both, but are you talking about like a value add type situation? Or are you talking about buying something that's up and running? What's the ideal situation when you're buying, say, a 40-unit apartment complex?
Yeah, so for average individuals getting into the business, you want an operating asset because you're buying a cash flow. It's like a business. And then your job is to add value to that, and you do that by increasing the income. That's really the only way to add value to a property. Properties are valued on their income. So you have to figure out, how can I increase the income? Operational efficiencies, increase rents, economies of scale with other things. So that's really the goal when you're buying any kind of income producing property. You want to maximize that income, reduce your expenses, and that ultimately makes it more worthwhile. And then I'm opportunistic. So I look for bigger, more challenging properties where they could be run down and vacant. Doesn't have to be operating. It could be just dirt and I go from the ground up. It could be something that I tear down and redo. It could be a building that I change the use. So for me, I can take advantage of different, opportunities because I have the skill set. But for most people that says, hey, I want to start out with 40 or 100 units, great. Once you've learned the business and the market, then let's go after an operating asset that you can purchase because it's already got the income. It's easier to finance, and it doesn't take a lot of skill to take that over. You can hire a property manager to manage it day to day, and then you just continue to build on those assets.
Are those burning question? I've got two burning questions, and then we'll open it up to questions, and we'll just keep going until we get enough questions to start riffing on that. But in this market, is that a smart move right now? Are you seeing a lot of deals out there right now from your side of the pond? I mean, your side of the United States that actually work that way? And two-part question. And would you be willing to take them down right now with prices being where they are?
Yeah, I mean, there's always deals in every market, and I have my parameters of what I'm looking for. So if the deal parameters, yes, but I don't pay anything for any asset at any point in time. It has to meet my criteria of a return that I'm looking for. And California, it's tough. Properties are expensive, taxes are expensive, rent controls are becoming a problem. Property taxes are going to go up. So you have to take all those things in consideration. Insurances are going up, especially in areas where natural disasters have been a problem. So you have to look at all those things in general. But yeah, there's good deals out there all the time. It's when the market's hot like it is now and there's a lot of competition, then you have to just look at more deals and make more offers. That's just what that takes. It used to be, depending on what it is, you could look at 10, 20 deals or properties to get a deal. Now you got to probably look at 100 just because there's so much stuff out there and all the sellers, want to get a premium, which is understandable. Now, the other flip side of that coin is interest rates are lower now. So that's increased the, price point and value of the assets because the financing is cheaper. So what I tell people say, well, what's a good deal? How much should I pay for a property? And I say, look, whatever you want, it has to match your return requirements. So if you're looking for a 10% return cash on cash, put your down payment down, after your net income and your financing, what's your return on that 10%? Or on that down payment? Does it hit your threshold 8, 10, 20, whatever you're looking for? If you're developing, you have to have a margin in there. If you're flipping, you need a margin, right? It's the old, 70% after repair value. So you can have a 30% margin. So it really is up to you. And if it's an income producing cash flowing property that's going to reduce the debt service over the years in your long term, as long as it pays for itself and pays the debt down and, puts enough money in reserves so you don't have to worry about capital expenditures and unforeseen repairs, then, that's up to you. You could say, I don't need any cash flow. I don't need any net income. I don't care because at the end of 20 years or 30 years, it's going to pay itself off and I'm going to own it free and clear. And I know people that have that strategy with single family homes right now. They're accumulating 1, 2, 3 at a time. And, they're just going to hold them long term. And their goal is to use the cash flow from the properties to pay off all their properties. And I've got one client I'm working with now who's got over 100 of them. And, that's been his strategy for 10, 15 years.
Yeah, Rick, my old co-host on this show, sadly passed away in November. He had 125 houses, and half of those were pretty near. He would say pretty near instead of pretty near, paid off, and that was his strategy, and it worked really, really well.
I did some lives with Rick. He was a sharp old bird.
Yeah, he wasn't that old.
He was older than me.
I think we're only 7 years apart, but and that is strong. I don't suggest people do that at my age. At my age, you need to shift more towards cash flow. But if you're just starting out, I don't see any issue with that at all. I concur with that. But if you're in your 50s, you better be looking at some cash flow because 30 years down the road, you might be able to buy some higher quality diapers, but that's, you don't want to wait that long. So,
Yeah.
all right, I'm going to ask a couple of questions here that people are asking, and I've got a few more here. We only got to about 3 of mine. By the way, great answers. I know you've got a couple of guys I know that are on here. You got their juices flowing right now for sure.
Awesome. I hope the lighting's okay. It's getting dark on me over here.
No, you're fine. It's you're glowing. You look lovely. No, you look fine. You look great. When you say one and only O3 is asking, when you say you were taken advantage of on that project you got kind of screwed on. Let me finish reading this. When you say you were taken advantage of, was that on the commercial development side of things? Was that commercial or residential?
It was building spec houses, residential spec houses.
Okay. Let me ask you, I mean, I've been taken advantage of a couple of times, but what was it? He used you and didn't pay you, or what was the deal?
Well, so we were supposed to be partners, and he was supposed to be, because this is when I was first building my company. I didn't have any money. I needed money, and the whole business plan was to build these spec houses, sell them, and split the profits. And
Right.
He was supposed to be the money. I was the builder. I found the properties. I was doing the building. And, he was supposed to be the money. Well, the first thing that happens is when the money needed to be wired to start the projects, he couldn't get it. Oh, well, I need time. I can't just go get $10,000. So I put up the deposit. Then when it came time for the financing, next thing you know, I'm signing on the debt. He's supposed to be the money. And he's like, well, you need to guarantee these loans too. I'm like, well, that was your part. He said, no, if we're going to be partners, we both guarantee the loans. I'm like, okay, whatever. So, I signed on the loans with him. And then, like I said, the third strategy was we were supposed to sell the house and split the profits. There was about $100,000 worth of profit in each house. We did 5 of them. So we had, $250,000 each that we were going to earn at the end of a year. This was a 1-year project, building these 5 houses. Actually, it was like 6 months. So along the way, he started saying, I really don't want to sell. I want to hold and rent them because of, the short-term capital gains. And I said, well, I need to sell. This is why I'm doing this. I need to build up some cash reserves so I can do some bigger projects. And so what he did was, without me knowing, he refinanced the houses into his own name and didn't pay me. And I didn't even know you could do that. And I guess it's illegal. But yeah, he refinanced the loans, put them in his own name, and then, negotiated a little payoff to me of like 20,000 a house is what I ended up taking, because my attorney was like, you're going to spend $100,000 fighting this guy. You might take what you can get.
Yeah.
So that was the first lesson that I learned, right off the bat. And, I never partnered again after that. I only did all my own deals from that point on. Now I partnered some companies and stuff, but it's very different. I was in control.
Yeah. There's ways to partner where you're not going to get screwed, but usually that's where it happens.
Yeah. But I never did that again, but it was a great lesson because he taught me how to build spec houses. So what I started doing after that was I said, okay, what I wanted to do is take land position. So I went and tied up a bunch of lots. I would flip the lots to my investors and I would build them houses. And then I would go, do my own as well. So I would get economies of scale by building my own houses, building investor houses. But if they wanted to get the land, they had to buy it for me. I would make a profit on the land. Then they had to build the house with me and I'd make a profit on the house. So that was kind of my business model for a number of years. So I learned a good lesson.
That was a good lesson. I went through, on my second deal, I think I ended up getting screwed out of that one and the third one. But I learned so much from it. I look back now and I can't say I'm glad it happened, but it was educational and it kept me from losing a lot more money. I still lost money later on, but I would have lost more. So,
so here's another one. So I didn't get cheated, but I had somebody try to cheat me. This is a commercial deal while I was buying an oceanfront hotel and the market was getting hot. This was 2000, 2001. And I had put the hotel under contract for $4 million. It had 8 oceanfront lots, had 2 across the street. We were going to tear it down, rebuild everything, put multi-million-dollar beach houses up. The week that we were supposed to close, the seller tried to back out of the contract and flip the property to somebody else for $6 million because people found out I had it under contract. The market was going up. So people were offering more money to kick me out of the deal. So this seller, one of their advisors was an attorney in Virginia. This was down in North Carolina, the property. And he said, nope, you're out. We're not closing with you. We're going to sell it to these other guys. So I filed,
Really?
what's called lis pendens. Yeah. So I filed a
Yeah.
lawsuit, and that took 2 years. They went through 2 or 3 different attorneys because they had no case, and they were just trying to find a fee attorney that would take the case. Took 2
Right.
years, $125,000. We won. Still, I didn't get my legal fees out of the deal. We still had to close on the property, but it was worth $8 million, at the end of the day. So, I've had a couple of instances like that. That's called specific performance. You can't make
Mm-hmm.
anybody buy, but you can make them sell. And I've
Yeah,
had two
yeah,
cases where I've had to.
I was going to say there's no cooling off period on the sale part, just the buying
Yeah.
part.
So I've had two situations where I've had to take a seller to court, and I won both times, hands down, because ironclad contracts. I save every email. I've got emails
Mm-hmm.
going all the way back to when I first started. Everything's
Mm-hmm.
in digital, and all my documents. So it was just hands down. But they delayed and played the system, and you know how that goes. Hoping we'd die or
Oh
quit
yeah.
or give up or something.
All right. What would you do if you were just getting started and only had $20,000?
I would keep it in the bank. Don't touch it. Don't use it, and educate yourself so that you don't need to touch it. You don't need to use it. And you go out and you find the money that you need through other investors. There's plenty of people looking to partner with you, back you, invest with you, but you've got to know what you're doing, and you have to have a good deal.
Yep. Yeah. You got to bring a deal. And I'm going to ask, I got a couple questions here, but I'm going to go to my questions. In this market, now this is a really broad question, but I'll take a broad answer. Is it better to build a project right now, or is value add a smarter move, based on what the market is right now?
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what asset type or class we're talking about. Could be houses, could be commercial, could be multifamily. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's replacement cost. If you can build cheaper than you can buy, then it makes more sense to build. That's number one, because you generally are going to have more margin. Number two is supply. If you don't have the inventory and you don't have supply, then you have to create it. So that's when you look at building, and it can make more sense. And number three, just equity. A lot of times there's just more equity in new product. New always rents for more, always rents faster, always sells for more, always sells faster in the right location. So this doesn't
Right.
work anywhere in any location. You can't just build
Yeah.
it and they will come. It's got to be the right thing in the right location. But number one, replacement cost. Number two, inventory. Number three, demand.
So basically, like LA, yeah, you're right on the fence here because of costs. You buy a house that's 100 years old and rehab it, it's going to go for not a whole lot less than a brand new house. So here's a little bit different, but the Midwest, it might be a different story. So yeah, that's good advice. Look at what things are selling for and look at what it's going to cost you to build it. That answers your question. That was really easy answer. Thank you. I'm going to take number 8. We still have 20 minutes. Number 8 is going to be the last question. But I know you have a good answer for that. Is it dangerous to scale big? Now, a lot of people, I've avoided it. And after your talk the other day, there was probably more on my mind than that, but your talk the other day got me to thinking, why not? Why not me? Why can't I have 2,000 units? So, is it dangerous to do that, or is it safer to have more, or is it safer to have less? What's your opinion?
That's going to be different for everybody. Everybody has their own comfort
Correct.
level, and I'm not somebody
Yeah.
that says, look, you've got to get outside your comfort level. What I look at is, what do you want to do, right? You're only here for a short time. You have extraordinary talents, gifts, and abilities. You probably can do a lot more than you think you can. So why not go for it? That's always been my mentality. I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it and try to take it as far as I can take it. So as long as you have the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, and you know how to protect yourself from unforeseen events, then, there's no downside in going big. And I tell people, the younger you are, especially, that's when you can take huge risks and really go big, because, you have more time to do it over and over again. When you start getting to our age, people are living to be whatever nowadays, 80, 90. So you and I are still halfway there. So we can still take pretty big risks, but you have more to lose now with house, kids, education, weddings, and all that kind of stuff as your kids age and get older. So it weighs on you a little more heavily, and you get generally a little more conservative as you get older. But
For sure.
it's a good time to do it. Money is available. It's cheap. It's never been so cheap. It's never been so available. So it's a good time to grow and scale. Probably the best time we've ever seen in the history of what my experience is in the economy. Right now.
I like that answer. That's a ballsy answer. I like that. Because so many people are holding back right now, and I can't say that I haven't been one of them. But yeah, with interest rates where they're at, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all.
You just got to be smart about it, and you just got to make sure that it works.
Yeah, there it is right there. So educate yourself. Don't do anything stupid without the knowledge to back it up. Stephen Smith is asking, should I start in multifamily or single family? I'm 50 years old. Well, he said 50 years young.
Yeah, so obviously the fastest way to scale is multifamily. So if you're looking for passive income, rental income, at the end of the day, it's harder to scale single family unless you just have an abundance of them in your area and the cash flows work. So the advantage of multifamily is they're bigger deals, they're bigger dollars, they're easier to finance. You can raise capital a lot easier for multifamily rental properties than you can single family. You can raise the capital for single family, but it's inefficient. A lot more work, those types of things. So it really depends. I mean, there's some markets where you can get some really good spreads, actually better on single family than you can multifamily. But like I said, I've got a couple of clients that are, 100, 200 single family homes that it's taken them 10 years. You can buy one property on commercial and multifamily and you're done for the rest of your life. One property could be the difference for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So if you're 50, I think go big. I think go big. You don't have much time left. The clock's ticking.
No, I agree. The thing is most of the folks out there are looking forward to a small pension or a small amount of money from Social Security or another small amount of money from their 401k. Guys, really, that $5-6 grand a month, people tend to spend more money when they retire. They don't spend less money. So you need to bump that up just a little bit. Awakened is asking, how do you find good deals on multifamily? And would you do it out of state using a turnkey provider?
There really is no such thing for true multifamily. So understand what multifamily is. Multifamily is 5 units or more. They're not duplexes, they're not triplexes, they're not quads. So if you're looking for small stuff like that, quads, triplexes, duplexes, sure, there's some great turnkey providers out there, but you need to vet them thoroughly and make sure that they know what they're doing. But I always recommend start where you're at. Wherever you're at, invest where you're at. It's local, you know where it is. If you're going out of state, go big. Get into bigger properties, at least 30, 40 units and up, something like that. But 100 units, somewhere around there, it makes it worth your time because you're going to have to travel. It's not like you're not going to have to visit a property when it's out of state.
So that begs the question, okay, how do you get financing on something? Let's say I want to buy 100 units in Terre Haute, Indiana. I just picked that city out of the air. What's the process for someone like me? I've got, money in the bank, but I don't know if I qualify for that kind of a loan. How does that whole thing work? I mean, if I want to go buy 100 units tomorrow.
So you have to put 20 to 30% down. There's agency debt, Freddie and Fannie. They have multifamily agency debt that you can get small balance loans under $5 million. You don't need an experience qualifier. You can get a waiver and not have any agency variance. But they're going to look at your net worth. So you have to have a net worth equal to the loan amount. You got to put 20% down. You got to have cash reserves of about 6 months worth of payments. They may even make you escrow that, but they might let you just hold it in the bank. If you are above 5 million, and I'm not sure what the limits are on the small balance right now, might be 3.5, might be 5, somewhere in there, but it's Freddie Mac small balance, Fannie Mae small balance, multifamily loans. Very easy to qualify for. Local banks are even easier. If you have a local bank that you're banking with, commercial bank, they'll loan you the money on those assets. Generally, they're going to be 20-year, but you can get interest only and then refi it with multifamily agency debt later. So you have to have the credit worthiness and the net worth to be able to qualify. If you don't, then you can bring people on that do. Or if you have net worth and all that, but you don't have experience, then you find an operator and you be their qualifier. So that's why you see so many people partnering up on multifamily and syndications. So that's how you do it. And if you just want to do your own thing, then you start smaller where you can, and you start by qualifying yourself with a lender. There's commercial mortgage brokers, just like residential. There's also your local commercial banks. So give them your financial statement, put it out there, and say, what can I qualify for? I want to go buy multifamily properties. And they'll tell you, you can qualify for 5 million, 10 million, whatever it is, and then go hunt for that. And then once you get that, now you just grow it from there.
And would you suggest, well, let's just keep using Terre Haute, Indiana, because I like the name of that sound. I like the sound of that name. And I like the name of that sound too. But let's say I want to do something there. Would it behoove me to go visit there and go interview small banks there, or should I find a broker in my area, or am I better off going to one of the small banks in that area? Which, in your experience, is better? I get this question a lot. Should I go to a bank that's local, or should I do something near me?
So for a multifamily property or for a single family?
Yeah, for let's say let's just go with a 50 unit in Indiana, and I live in California. Should I try to find somebody here to lend to me, or should I go there and find a lender? What's a better chance?
So you want a multifamily direct lender or a mortgage broker, because they lend all over the country. So no, you don't have to be local for those loans. Now, if you're going to use a local bank, then yeah, you have to use a local regional bank, but you don't have to go there. You can Zoom, you can phone call, you can do whatever just to get the ball rolling once you've identified a property. But yeah, if it's going to be a bank loan, a regional commercial bank, then yeah, you generally you're going to need somebody local, but not for agency debt. They lend all over the country.
Okay, and which one's better?
Agency debt is better. Commercial loan brokers have they have conduit lenders, which are life companies, pension funds, investment funds that lend. They have the Freddie and Fannie that lend. So they have a lot more options for you than a local commercial bank. They're going to be, generally, they're not going to give you as long of a term or as favorable of terms as you can get from the agencies, but they're easier to qualify for.
Gotcha.
But everybody who wants to get into multifamily, get agency debt going, get that experience qualifier, because as you scale up, you're going to need experience with agency loans. They're going to want to see somebody who's got experience.
Okay. And what does experience mean? 50 units?
That you
20
borrowed
units?
money from Freddie Mac, that you've done a loan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And you're in good standing.
Okay. That's weird. The questions are reappearing. All right, guys, any more questions? I know this is kind of a deep dive, guys, and we don't usually go this deep on such large stuff. So, I just wanted you to hear about this, because a lot of you want to go to the next level. I know there's a couple of you on here right now that I've talked to in the past that want to take it to the next level. And honestly, this one was for you. And this is also for everybody else out there that has dreamed about it. It's possible to do it. It's absolutely possible to do it. But you got to get started. So, and Stephen Smith is asking, how many units should I start with? And I think we kind of covered that, but let's say you're a newbie and you've got a decent job and you've got a little bit of money, but you don't want to partner with anybody. Where would you start?
Well, you'll have to start with what you're able to do based on the amount of money you have, what you can qualify for. So that's going to be your limitation there. Go to the bank and find out what you can qualify for and start there if you don't want to take on investors and partners and all that.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, so I do work with a lot of people that are growing and scaling, but for people that are watching, like whoever had the $20,000 in the bank. So I've got a client I'm working with now, a young guy in Greensboro, North Carolina. He's got a license. He's a realtor. He wanted to become an investor, never done a deal before, didn't have any money. So I showed him how to negotiate a subject to. So he took title to the property, no money out of his pocket. I showed him how to negotiate a deal with his contractor, where the contractor got paid when the house sold and made a little bonus on top of it. And then he negotiated with a private lender for some working capital to get his business set up and do some marketing things. So that was his first deal, took title to it, no money out of his pocket. Contractor did all the repairs, no money out of his pocket. He got funding to get his business up and running, no money out of his pocket. He made $100,000 on his first deal the first 3 months that he worked with me when I taught him how to do all that. So you don't need money. You need expertise.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, definitely can be done. It definitely can be done. So when you give people advice on how to find deals, what do you normally do? Because I mean, we have our own patented method of finding properties here, and it's just hard ass work, but it works. It works really well. Works so well. We got a
Well, it
bunch of
depends
people
on your
to do it.
volume and what you're looking for, but you got to have a system. So you have to have, some sort of a lead capture system to capture the leads. But at the end of the day, you got to make a lot of offers to a lot of sellers. That's the bottom line. So you need to know your market. You need to know it intimately in terms of what you're looking for and the availability. You need to know who the sellers are, who is likely to sell. And you can get that in a variety of ways depending on the assets. So at the end of the day, it just boils down to consistent marketing. And here's the number one mistake everybody makes with marketing. I've got people that I'm working with that spend $100,000 a month in marketing. I've got some that spend 10 for houses, and multifamily. But the number one mistake that people make is they'll spend money marketing, they'll send out mailers, they'll do voice blasts, they'll do whatever, and they don't answer the phone. They don't follow up, they don't follow through. So, if you're going to market and you're going to do this, you need to make sure that you're ready, or you've got somebody that's going to answer that phone when it comes in. If you get a lead, you got to follow up immediately. And just because they say no today doesn't mean it's a no tomorrow or next week or next month. So it's always, if it's a no, and here's the last thing you always ask every seller, whether it's a yes or a no, is do you have any other property that you would like to sell? Or do you know anybody else who has any property that they would like to sell? Any property. And you never know what that's going to, oh, you know what, my Uncle Buck, or hey, you know what, my boss, or, my son, or you just never know what that brings up. So that's the last thing you say to every seller.
That's good advice.
And every buyer.
Some of these people have a lot of properties.
You just never know. Yeah. And they're not going to say it a lot of times unless you ask them, well, now that you mention it, yeah, I do have this condo building over here, or this apartment building I don't know what I'm going to do with. Really? Tell me about your apartment building that you don't know what you want to do with.
The honest truth is we had that happen no less than 3 times yesterday on the phone. So it absolutely, that goes without saying that that's probably one of the things that not answering the phone is stupid. I'm sorry, it's stupid.
But people do that. They'll spend money and they just won't take the call.
Believe me, but it's okay. We're following up with those people and we'll take care of them for you. So we'll be the next phone call. So here's another one. People never change your phone number. Okay. So whatever phone number, web address, whatever you're marketing with, don't ever change it. I've had people reach out to me now. I just recently, probably 5 years ago when I talked to them, they called me up a couple of weeks ago about a lot that I'd offered on them like 5 years ago. So, I mean, I've had that happen my entire career, 2, 3, 5 years down the road. I think the oldest now is probably 5 years since I last talked to them, and they sought me out because they saved my number. So never change your number, never change your web address. If you're mailing and doing any kind of direct mail, don't throw your return mail away. Skip trace it, get the phone numbers and call them. So, just don't be so easy to give up. And, if you don't reach somebody on the phone and you're doing calling or whatever, put them in a mail campaign, but always trace that stuff, always follow up on it, and just tickle that database every once in a while. Because I'm telling you, people's lives change. I've had sellers tell me, I will never sell, not in your lifetime, not in my lifetime, not ever. You've heard that. Feet first.
And what do they do?
Feet first. Yeah.
Everybody liquidates at one point or another. Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah. 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 We get deals 12 months, 24 months later. It never fails. Just keeping that pipeline full. Yeah, that's such great advice. I don't think you can say that enough. Those 3 things right there, guys, will make you so much more money. Just follow those 3 pieces of advice. Answer the phone, don't change your number, and ask people if they have any other properties they might be interested in selling, or if they know somebody that might be interested in selling. Seriously, those 3 dumb things right there are just an amazing lead generator and deal generator. So, all right, Greg, I'm going to ask you a question here, and just tell me what you think. You've already kind of given me a hint as to what you think, but what's your opinion on where we're going with not the state of the country, because we'll get a new president eventually, and then things will change, and then we'll get another president, and things will change, and that I don't worry about that so much. There could be some lasting things that happen here, but what do you think is going to happen with the economy, with the money that's been printed and where prices are right now and the cost of lumber and blah, blah, blah? What's your prognostication?
There's going to be a reckoning. So we're going to have to deflate. But, here's the thing. So it's always been cycles, boom and bust. For as long as you can go back and track it and you can put it on the charts, remember this always. Good times never last. Bad times never last. You have to lead the market up. You have to lead the market down. There's opportunities in every market, every cycle. You got to pay attention. Don't listen to what they say, like the Fed today. Don't listen to what they said. Watch what they do. So pay attention to the news, but watch what they do. The markets are never wrong. If you see the market selling off, something's going on that you don't know about. If you see the markets going up, something's going on you may not know about. But you just got to be in tune with the markets, lead it up, lead it down. There's opportunity in every cycle. When everybody was going bust in 08, 09, plenty of people were making money. And then there's going to be the anomalies like March, where it just comes out of nowhere, the pandemic and everything sells off. But that's temporary. But as far as, housing costs, all those types of things, housing, commercial assets, all that, it's in interest rates. So as soon as rates go up, prices come down. As soon as we get opened up, supply chains, open back up, which they're still struggling with the pandemic. So supply chains are kind of up in the air right now. But as soon as that stuff gets behind us, costs, on commodities and supplies will come down. The Fed is going to have to pull the foot off the gas. They're going to have to raise rates at some point. That's going to create a sell-off in the markets. It's going to create, deflation in housing prices. So we're going to have a correction there. But again, it's all cycles. You just got to be prepared. You got to have the skills, and you lead the market up. You lead the market down. Don't chase it. Lead it.
Good advice. Carlos Perla's asking, what are your thoughts on blockchain technology, Bitcoin? Is that going to affect real estate? What's your opinion?
Technology is already affecting real estate. I know that, the first condo has been tokenized. If you're following NFTs and tokens, blockchain is at some point going to be a solution for cumbersome real estate transactions. But exactly how that's going to work, if you can tokenize real estate where, if you're going to sell me a property, you just send me the property, send me a token and I own it, instead of titles and deeds and all that. That's very complicated for real estate, but we could get there. But as far as blockchain technology, brilliant. It's math. As far as Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, things like that, I've made a lot of content on that on my YouTube channel. It's early. It's technology. There's a lot of opportunity there, but you've got to be really careful. You got to know what you're doing. Those markets are going through a correction right now. So it's a dangerous time to be getting in right now. So we're seeing a little bit of a bubble there as well. But yeah, that technology is here to stay. It's going to get better, and it is going to change and revolutionize a lot of industries.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, don't ask me questions about that because I don't know enough about it to have an opinion. But all right, guys, great question. So real quick before we break, we'll take one more question at the end. How do people find you? I'll put your Instagram in the show notes. But how do people find you if they want to talk to you?
It's gregdickerson.com. I've got a ton of stuff on YouTube. I don't do private consultations. I only, consult with my clients. But I've got tons of videos. I put them out every single day, brand new videos. I got a bunch of different stuff on different topics, entrepreneurship, real estate, cryptos, markets, economy, all that kind of stuff. So gregdickerson.com. I have a podcast, YouTube channel, Instagram, and everything goes out every day.
Awesome. Guys, please go follow him on Instagram and YouTube. And man, I thank you so much. This is a lot of good information. And I hope you guys were paying close attention because this is your future if you play the game right. There's no reason why you can't scale your business. You don't have to keep with 2 houses. You can have 200. You can have 500 units in apartments. You can have shopping centers. Anything you want, you can have. You truly can. So, Greg, any parting words before I ask your last question?
All it takes is a split second to change your mind and change your life, and that's really it. You got to change your mind, to change your life and decide what it is you want to do. I started with absolutely nothing, no backers, no formal education, a little bit of training in military and stuff, but I educated myself and I took action, and I was clear on what I wanted. That's the key. I knew what I wanted, and I put a plan in action so that I knew I could measure my performance every single day to make sure it matched my goals, and off to the races. And yeah, I mean, the difference is now, if I knew what I know now back then and applied it to the times that we were in, man, it would have been lights out.
I know. But you know what though? It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. You and I are both financially secure. I'm assuming you are. I know I am. And we are where we are. And it's a whole lot better than pounding nails, even though I enjoyed pounding nails for years. So what's the future for you? That's my last question. What is the future for you? What are you going to do for the next 5 years?
So, I'm doing it, helping other people explore and live the life type of life that I've lived, where you can, you have your freedom, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, be there for your kids' stuff, not have to worry about bills and things like that. And so, I have a school of entrepreneurship where I'm teaching people how to carve their own path, how to be entrepreneurs, how to grow and scale. I still do deals. I have my own deals going, and, I'm very happy with what I've accomplished, but man, the information now is just so available, and it's so easy now compared to how it was back then. If you have the right information
so true
at the right time and apply it to the right vehicle the right way, you can really do some big things nowadays. And it's pretty incredible, the times that we're in and how easy it is now compared to how it was when you and I got started. I mean, I literally had to knock on doors, put signs in the ground, put ads in the paper. I couldn't go on Facebook and say, hey, I do this, or, do you need that? It was way harder.
Yeah, it was. And, I can't impress upon people enough, take advantage of the situation we're in right now. People always come to me. It's like, there's so many people in real estate. How is there going to be room for me? It's like, trust me, there's room for you. The reason you think there's that many people in real estate is because that's all you're consuming right now, because you're so into the real estate side of things. We live in a very small world, and there's only so many of Marks out there and so many Gregs out there, preaching and telling you about what we know. It's not that big, guys. It's not as big as you think. And quite frankly, most of the people that you're watching, they ain't doing the shit they say they're doing. So keep that in mind too. There's plenty of room for everybody. And, guys, thank you for joining us tonight, Greg. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. I know we're going to have more. You got my juices flowing the other day. They're still going. We're going gangbusters here, but we can always do more. And I can always do less.
Yep. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, and happy to be back, anytime if you want to do a recap. Great questions.
Yes.
And enjoyed it.
We will. We'll get some questions on this. I know that. So anyway, thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you later. We'll connect sometime later on next week. Okay.
Take care. Everybody have a good good week. Happy Father's Day.
Same back at you. You guys have a good night. I'll see you on Instagram tomorrow. Good night, guys. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.